It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
I'm Craig Price, professional bastard. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Reality Check with Craig Price. I am, as always, Craig Price. And this week, sports writer and podcaster Rick Limpert joins me to talk about sports technology. Now, I'm a big sports fan, and, the advancements in technology from just 15, 20 years ago is amazing. It's just, it's mind-boggling at times. It seems there's a gadget for everything to the point where I'm not even sure they're considered sports anymore. They're more like activities since they seem to have developed so many things that take the skill out of it. Joe Schmo can walk into a store, buy equipment, and he can drive the ball 100 extra yards. He can, do all these extra things that you before took skill. Now it's all in the technology, which kind of explains why baseball is my favorite sport, since they only really beef up the chemical science and not necessarily the tools. Yes, I'm talking to you, Roger Clemens. But before I get off on a Barry Bonds head-size rant, let me give you Rick Limpert. When I hear sports and technology, I think of two things. The first thing I think about is safety, is where most of the sports and technology meet, is safety on the professional end. And then on the amateur end, it's how can we make Joe Schmo going into Dick's Sporting Good just like a professional? So where do you see most of the sports and technology meeting?
Well, you'd be right on both of those, but you'd also want to think about the things we use in our everyday lives as far as the TV we watch. High definition, big screen TVs were developed with sports in mind, and being able to watch the games and make you feel like you're in the stadium and have the surround sound and the big picture. And most people don't realize that. And just also something as simple as the shoes on our feet are constantly being tested and upgraded, and new technologies being brought in, not just for the professional and world-class athletes, but for, the 75-year-old couple that walks around the mall on the weekends, so they have something that's more comfortable and cushioned and easier to walk in. So, it's this technology in sports is constantly changing.
And when you were talking about TV, of course, one of the first 3D channels out there is ESPN 3D. So that's sports is one of the first things that, when it comes to consumer visuals, is something that everyone can relate to so almost immediately.
Yeah. While 3D television hasn't really taken off like some thought it might, it's still there, and they're still experimenting with it. And I've seen demonstrations and have watched it. It's because it makes the viewer a little more involved. It's a lot of people like watching television because it's relaxing, and they just kind of like to sit back and do it. The adding the 3D element to it kind of propels you and makes you pay attention a little bit more and keep a little closer eye on the action. And they're still fine tuning it. I don't know where that's going to go, but it's an option for some people that want to experience that.
I don't have a 3D television, but right now I have the option. I can change the channel, and I can go to a 3D station. I have 3 or 4 of them on our cables channel, so it's definitely, and almost all of them are sports. I think there's one that is showing, the 3D movies, but that's out of the 4 channels, it's 3 sports and 1 movie. So I think that I think it's a little more relatable. A movie, only a certain amount of the population is going to want to watch any given movie. But know that NASCAR has hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people watch it on TV, but hundreds of thousands go to every single event. So that's just, that there's a built-in audience when it comes to sports.
Yeah, and last year they when the last World Cup, they kind of experimented with the 3D and the soccer a little bit, and while it was kind of neat to watch, they again they had some issues with it, and it's still all this is still kind of in the beta mode. So I mean, changes are always going to occur, and I mean, they're always looking for feedback from the customers and from viewers and from the media, to see what works and what doesn't, and it's just, I mean, it's interesting to see where it's going to go in the next couple of years.
And for you listening, my guest today is Rick Limpert. You write for Yahoo Sports. You've been in Sports Illustrated. You're one of the first guests I've had that has their own podcast. You can hear him on the Tech of Sports on the Netcast studio. Your business is sports. So where do you see the technology going? Because I like I said, I see it going mainly in two places. You obviously see it a lot more. I see it going into safety, especially with all the concussions talk we're having with football. And they've got the bobble-headed helmet that they've got for baseball that they're starting to slowly implement. And, wooden bats versus aluminum bats, and then trying to re-wooden aluminum bats because they hit too hard. So where do you see safety first? We'll start with safety. Where do you see some of the technology coming into play with safety?
Well, one of the biggest changes is that for all the motorsports fans out there, the Hans device, which attaches the head of the driver to kind of the back of the seat, so you don't get that whiplash effect when you do crash. Basically what killed Dale Earnhardt Sr. in the Daytona 500. There's been so many innovations in the world of NASCAR, and I also do a lot of drag racing, and it seems, not a year would go by in drag racing where somebody wasn't killed due to the car shaking so much or hitting something. So, I mean, while these sports are still dangerous and these drivers are literally taking their lives into their hands when they get out there on the track or on the drag strip, I mean, they've built these cars now to withstand big impacts and hopefully to minimize any injuries to the drivers in the cars. It's it's been amazing, all the innovation, like I said, with the Hans device in all motorsports, and then in drag racing with what John Force Motorsports has done with their lab in Indianapolis as far as making these cars safer and the uniform safer, the helmet safer. It's totally a different sport now than even it was a couple of years ago.
And one of the things I saw with NASCAR, there was two incidents, because my dad and my brother are huge NASCAR fans. I'm not so much. It's just guys turning left really fast. But they have these, I guess, these movable fins that pop up so the car doesn't flip. They're on the roof. And so, because that's the biggest problem, is that you go so fast, all it takes is that front end to go a little in the air, just a little bit, and next thing you know, you've got a plane that's not really flyable, and that's flipping over. So have you seen other things besides? I don't know what those things are called.
I don't know what they're called either. They're little flaps that do come out, and it's to prevent the cars from getting airborne. But if you don't look at big wrecks in NASCAR, the wrecks where the car is flipping and tumbling over numerous times, those are usually the wrecks where the driver just pops right out of the car and walks away from it. It's the impact crashes are the ones that take tolls on the drivers, because, like I said, your head and your body are moving quickly in a way that they're not supposed to, and again, your internal organs are involved, and the head, and so, I mean, they've tried to cushion the walls a little bit or take that out of play, but still it all comes down to the car and to the safety devices that the drivers now are required to wear.
And now when we talk about, because we not only is there safety issues with helmets, because I know that they're constantly working on helmets in every sport that uses a helmet. I mean, I think hockey was the last one that finally said, look, you got to wear a helmet, guys. They're dealing with concussions now. What have you seen in the helmet area that has changed, besides just the fact that they're getting bigger? I'm not even sure that helps if your brain is still shaking around in there.
If you look at a football helmet now and you look at one from 10, 15 years ago, they're still the same shape, but the helmets now have little curves in them, and they have little indentations in them. I mean, they've really made these helmets try to fit snugly on the heads of the players. And, has that helped the concussion problem? It doesn't look like it, because there's still lots of concussions. Maybe that's because there's doctors that watch that more closely now than they used to. But I mean, you talk to players or former players, and they say that, it's about as safe as it can get. And as far as the concussions go, they won't know now until 10, 15, 20 years from now, what the impact of, pulling these players out of games now that have the, signs of a concussion will do, because in the past, they used to let the players play, and that's, bringing lawsuit central to the NFL now.
Yeah, I mean, all they had was smelling salts on the sidelines just to wake them back up and throw them back in there. Another thing that when I think of technology right off the bat is this big sport is golf, where we were talking about, there's a safety issue, but then when you get to the commercial, what I call the Joe Schmo, just the guy up the street, they're developing new balls, new drivers, new everything, so they can catch up with the pro, so you can hit the ball like a pro. What have you seen besides the first thing is always the driver. The drivers are usually the things that they're constantly trying to promote, the technology. So is that something that's translating into the professional game as well? All this technology, or is that particularly just for the consumer?
Well, no, yeah, it's all levels. No sport changes their technology quicker than the sport of golf. It's just amazing, and for somebody that sees it on a daily basis, I can't even keep up with it. So, I mean, it's hard for just the average club, public course player to even know what's out there available to them. I don't even try to almost cover what golf club technology is doing, because you can't keep up. I mean, you can only hit so many clubs, and with my game, it doesn't matter if it's a new club, an old club, I'm still about playing the same. So that's not really an issue for me. The balls have gotten wrapped tighter and they're going further. And there's all sorts of where I'm kind of fascinated when it comes to golf is kind of the golf accessories that come out that have changed so drastically in technology, from the clothes that they're wearing, how you don't sweat anymore in these shirts, or when you do sweat, it instantaneously dries, to golf socks, believe it or not. There's a company called Kent Wool that makes a proprietary wool that the sock is woven with, right here in South Carolina. And it's the sock that Bubba Watson wears, and Jonathan Bird, and numerous other pros. And this sock, and I have some pairs of it, your feet do not sweat in these socks. And if they do get wet, they dry almost instantaneously. And the bottoms of these socks are so well cushioned, it feels like you're almost walking on a bed of air. So, I mean, they've done, literally in golf from head to toe, they're constantly looking at the technology, what you can use and what they can do and upgrade. And golfers tend to, to be a little more affluent. They have that money to spend. So maybe that's why all the product changes happen so rapidly.
Now, is the socks in the non-sweat, is that like a weave, or is it a material? Is it, how does it not, I mean, you're going to sweat. How does it dry it and disperse it as quickly as something else?
Well, they don't tell you exactly how they do it, but it's their own patented wool that they use, it's not done in China and sent over here. They produce these socks right in South Carolina. It's a small growing company. More and more golf pros, as the word gets out, these socks are becoming more and more popular. They come in different colors. And, I mean, you almost have to try it to believe it. And I know they did one experiment where they put the socks on, and the person went and stood in a puddle, and within a few minutes, the sock was self-drying, and you almost didn't even know you had been standing in a puddle of water. So it's just technology at work, even in something as simple as socks.
Yeah, my in-laws are big golfers. My father-in-law is a huge golfer, and but he's also using this GPS technology, so he can. Instead, you used to have to eyeball it. You'd have to look at the marker. They had markers out there that were every 100 yards or so. But now he can just punch in this little. It almost looks like a GPS you put in your car, and it tells him how close it's be and recommends a club for him.
Yeah, these GPSs for golf. I mean, the pros can't use them on the tour, but for the recreational golfer, they say that you would lose. The recreational golfer would lose 3 to 5 strokes each round just because they couldn't get the yardage right or the right club going into the hole. So these little GPS devices, some are as simple as an app that goes already on your existing smartphone. But the best one I've tried it's from a company called Golf Buddy, and it's called The Voice. And it's about the size of a matchbook, and it clips onto your belt or clips onto the visor of your cap. And it's got pre-programmed over 35,000 courses into this little device. And when you show up at your local course, it knows what course you're at. Then when you get to that first tee or whatever tee you're on, it knows what hole you're on. When you're on that hole, it will know how far you are in yards or meters to the to the green, to the middle of the green. And it also, if you're off the fairway like me, if you're in the rough or you're behind the green, it will know where you are. It will be able to calculate that distance to that middle of the green, no matter what side of the hole or what part of the hole you're coming in from. It's just amazing how they can fit, the maps of and the information for over 35,000 courses in something the size of a matchbook.
Yeah, I'm a big gadget person, but I'm not sure. I think the biggest technology that I've gotten for golf is the umbrella that hides all the alcohol in it. You unscrew the base, and you'll be able to hide, about a fifth of whatever you want to take with you to the. You can get so. This seems to me like I don't know if it's cheating. It's not really cheating because it's not doing it for you. But I mean, doesn't it take some of the skill away?
I guess, but I mean, developing titanium clubs and these stiff shafted clubs. This isn't what the old time golfers were playing. So I mean, it's taken some of the technology or some of the skill away from that as well. And actually, I've talked with some of the old golfers. When I was down in Orlando at the PGA Merchandise Show, we had the chance to talk to Billy Casper, a Hall of Fame golfer. And I always ask these older golfers and the veterans of the sport what they think of the technology now. And you always expect them to say, "Oh, we wish, we're bitter about it," or "It's not the same game." But even the older golfers, he said he's all for the changes in golf technology. One, because it helps the amateur golfer enjoy the sport more. And it's brought more excitement to the pros and to the golf that we watch on television, because these guys really now are so good, and you have to keep up with the technology, because just a little change in technology can make the difference between winning and losing. And that's why you see all the pros lining up to try new things and training techniques and it's big business. Well,
I can see how golf, which is a truly frustrating game. I mean, you can see just by how Tiger Woods has been in the last 2-3 years, just because of all the mental things that he's had to do, how difficult it is for a professional. So I guess removing a lot of that frustration would allow people to actually enjoy it more. My brother was is probably still is. I haven't played with him in a long time, but he's a fairly good golfer, and it was frustrating to play with him because he would always, he'd hit the ball 100 miles, and then he'd have to wait 3 hits for the rest of us to catch up. So I could see how it became frustrating for me to play because it was so difficult. So I guess removing some of that difficulty makes it seem more enjoyable.
In theory, you think it is, and I mean it's something as simple as a company that makes putters out of Phoenix, Arizona, called Bossieri. They've taken a simple concept as making a putter as heavy as they can make it. It's called the Bossieri Heavy Putter. They've added weight to the grip, and they've back weighted the head of the club, so it's really heavy. So when you swing that putter or hit that putt, you don't move the club as much. There's not as much jerkiness and movement because the putter is so heavy. So what they're trying to do is, you have a clean back swing and a clean hit stroke through on the putt, so you don't send it offline. So just something as making a putter very heavy is something they think will help the amateur golfer, improve their putting on the green and maybe save themselves a couple strokes.
And I know another place where they go crazy for gadgets and apps is health and fitness. There's if you're we'll just start off if you're just dieting. There's hundreds of apps out there that'll help you keep track of things. But then if you're on like an exercise regimen, there's hundreds of apps that'll keep you on track like that. But what other little gadgets have you seen with health and wellness? Because I know that's where that's another place where a lot of sports technology is being utilized.
It's the hottest area of sports technology. The fastest growing is using mobile technology for your health and fitness, and it's everything from gadgets to strap your smartphones onto your bikes when you're riding, to little wristbands like the Jawbone Up and the Fitbit. Little wristbands that go on your wrist, and they will track all your daily activities just by having this little band on your wrist, your sleep patterns, how many steps you're taking in a day. Then you can enter in what you eat, and what you do is just take the wristband off, you plug it into your smartphone or your tablet. It will download all the information from that day or from the previous day, and you can see, what you did and how many calories you burned the previous day, how active you were. It's it kind of replaces having a pad of paper and writing down everything you did or everything you ate to just keeping it all stored in one place. And here's another thing that is a little controversial, but how would you like to have a scale that when you got on it each morning would put out on social media, on Twitter or Facebook, your weight each day? How would you feel about that?
Right now, 15 years ago, I'd have no problem with that. Right now, the only reason I would like it is probably the only way I could see the scale. If I check in my Twitter feed, but I think that's horrendous because I think we share too much. So, I guess if you want your friends to shame you into keep losing weight, which never works, but I mean, if you think that might work, but so
that's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it, but you could look at it the opposite way. If you're doing well on your diet or if you're doing well with losing weight, they would keep offering you encouragement right over your social media networks and your social media accounts. And that may make you feel better. But like you said, that's the decision you have to make. How much do you want to make public? How much do you want to keep private? And these programs and these gadgets are there if you want to put yourself out there. But you can also, some people aren't as comfortable. I would think women probably would not be as comfortable with that product as a guy would be who's doing well on his diet. So
they don't even like to tell you their weight when they look good. But if they're healthy and fit, they're not going to tell you, "Oh, I'm 115 pounds." That's. But for a guy, I could see how that would work. But you haven't met my friends, so it would just be constantly going, "You should be running more." They'd be probably some swear words and some other terms of endearment. Who
would have dreamed 3, 4, 5 years ago that there would be Wi-Fi built into your scale that would put out on social media your weight and how you're doing on your weight loss? It's just amazing.
And then that is immediately downloaded to the government, where when they finally take over to a dictatorship, they'll be able to assign us proper jobs.
Or to your health insurance company, and they'll say, you're not doing well on your diet, we'll raise your health insurance rates.
Yeah, there's definitely a slippery slope. I'm concerned that everything's going out on the internet. But again, are there any new actual technologies that will help you lose weight, not necessarily keep track of what you're doing? Because that's where most of the apps I see are. They're record-keeping apps, and they're great because it's very difficult to write things down if you can just punch it into your computer. But have you seen new technology? Because I'm always seeing like Bowflex is always changing, and there's always these new things they're selling online.
Yeah, and take those with a grain of salt. They vary from person to person whether they'll work. When they say, it's going to work for everybody, it isn't. But that stuff really hasn't changed all that much. It's all the other things that go along with it. Again, the accessories, little heart rate monitors, little straps you put on yourself that measure your pulse or let you know when you're optimizing your performance. Millions of people use these apps, and it's a multi-billion-dollar business. And I think the logic behind it is we need to get healthier, and people need to get healthy, and they always have their smartphone in their hands 24 hours a day. So it's just kind of a logical place to keep track of the information, and it's just it's something that these companies are really trying to take advantage of.
Yeah, and 30 years ago, if you wanted to go on a fitness regime, you'd have to go to the bookstore and hope to find a good book, where now you can go online and, in 10 minutes, you can gather up from experts stuff that works and is fit for you, not necessarily just the athlete out there. But, if you're 30 pounds overweight, the way you should start a routine is going to be different than someone who only needs to lose 5 pounds. So the access, there's no excuse for them not to know what kind of healthy things they should be doing, and these things help keep track. Is there one thing that you've seen out there for health and wellness that is that's really jumped out at you that you said, wow, I can't believe they've got this out there? Besides the scale, you seem to be amazed by. I'm amazed by the scale myself, but is there some piece of equipment or an app that you've seen that just amazed you?
Well, that Jawbone Up, and it's only one version has come out so far, but I think it really has potential because it really is accurate. And I've tried it for about a month, wearing it each night, wearing it each day. And I know the days where I was exercising and walking a lot, it kept a pretty accurate count of what I thought, how much I walked that day. And then it's kind of amazing, it tracks your sleep patterns at night just by wearing this little wristband. And I knew when I woke up at 3 a.m, I was up for 15 minutes before I fell back to sleep. And then when you download this into your tablet or your smartphone the next day, it's got a little blue line from 3 a.m, for the next 15 minutes when you were awake. And then it shows you how you go in and out of your deep and your light sleep again. So I was just kind of amazed by, for a $100 device, the accuracy and the amount of information it actually, provided. What you do with the information is another thing. But it really did provide some accurate, detailed information.
Now, before we let you go, because I really appreciate your time, but we've seen that we've gone from like I said, Joe Schmo uses, but how are athletes using this new technology besides just, when I think of what athletes using new technology, I'm thinking of them using new kinds of waters that got vitamins in it or quote unquote vitamins in it. When Derek Jeter goes to Germany to get blood therapy. That's what I think of new technology. So how are these athletes, these elite athletes, using all this new technology that we're not?
Well, they're using any bit of the technology, like I said, to try to gain an edge. And we'll see that with the Olympics this summer, the swimsuits. And I'm going to have a guest talking about swimming on my internet radio show this week, how tight these suits are now that these athletes have to get into, because they say they save them 200ths of a second by wearing that suit, and that 200ths of a second could mean the difference between getting a medal and not getting a medal. But where the technology has changed a lot for the athletes isn't even on the field of play. It's off the field of play with their branding and how athletes are using social media to, reach their fans and to put their brand out there, and how teams are using it to promote the teams. It's really brought the professional elite athletes closer to their fans and the general public than it ever has before. And we'll see that with the Olympics again. This is really the first social media Olympics, and we'll be able to see results instantaneously in pictures from the finish line before that. NBC will actually be broadcasting these games in prime time here in North America. So the NBC is going to have to kind of change how they cover the games and what the viewers see, and the viewers are going to have to adapt to knowing results ahead of time. And NBC is now coming up with a storyline that's going to make you want to watch and see what really happened.
And then they've gone to tape delay for the last 2, I believe, just because of the time difference. In London's going to be the same way. But before I let you go, where can people find you?
You can check out my website, my personal blog, and I have information on there about me. It's ricklimpert.info, and I'm at Rick Roswell on Twitter. You can just follow me on there, and you'll be able to. I have new articles and new endeavors coming out, and you feel free to Google my name, and you'll be able to see the hundreds and hundreds of articles and various technology related, and my Wednesday night internet radio show on netcast.com called, ironically enough, The Tech of Sports.
Well, we're having some technical issues on this end, so that was at The Tech of Sports at Netcast Radio. I'll make sure that they have access to all the links each week. But Rick, thank you for your time. I certainly appreciate it. And if you hear more great new stuff, let me know.
Sure, Craig, anytime.
And no technology-based podcast could be complete without it failing somehow. So let me repeat what happened at what Rick said at the end. You can find Rick at ricklimpert.info. You can find him on Twitter at Rick Roswell. And you can find his podcast, The Tech of Sports, on the Netcast Studio Network. I want to thank him for being on the show, and there will be no show next week for the 4th of July, so enjoy your holiday. We'll see you in 2 weeks.